Let's approach now a more advanced section of 3ds Max. We begin to see how to work the command panel because it represents, as the previously said, the heart of the 3ds Max. Here we find the settings and starting point of all the next works. We see how the command panel is divided in 6 sections: Create, Modify, Hierarchy, Animation, Visualization, and Utilities. Let's analyze the Create panel. Inside it we find subcategories because with 3ds Max we can create volumes and 3-dimensional objects. We can create lines, so 2-dimensional objects of different types as curves, circles, arches, and so on. We can make lights because 3ds Max is not only a 3-dimensional modeling software but also a rendering software, and thanks to the improvement on mental array with the last releases can be used as a tool of review. 3ds Max is also an animation software. It allows to create very simple camera animations where there are movements which feature various aspects, or it can be used to create more complex animations. 3ds Max contains tools and objects which are not rendered, so tools of 3-dimensional object lines. 3ds Max contains also tools necessary for the correct construction of our scenes, and so we can find tools to take measures like a bevel and so on. 3ds Max features also the so-called space words, modifier of object based in the position on time and space. Let's think about an object like a curve modifier. This can be assigned directly to the object or somewhere in the space. When the object comes closer to this partial modifier, this space warp will change the shape and part of its structure. We have systems. These are complex elements and so pre-constructed structures. We can find the solar illumination system, which include a skylight and the sun. We can find systems for the creation of characters, the character studios, used for biped animation. We can find other animation systems as the CAT, Character Animation Toolkit, derived from a soft image, not inside the structure but inside another one. This is, in my opinion, a strange thing. All the rest of the elements are replaced inside the panels. We see that by selecting a subcategory, there could be an additional one. In this case, we have a drop-down menu from which we can decide what to create. We can create objects defined as standards, so spheres, parallelepipeds, cylinders. We can make a standard primitive, as the classic thyroid node, as well as capsules, objects similar to containers, prisms, and other objects. We can find compound objects. Here we find average useful tools. We can find tools for cutting, for deforming, or to distribute. But these ones are not to be confused with the deformers. This represents a myth of creation of new geometries. For example, the loft tool. Starting from lines, it allows to create a new geometry, which is different from a modifier that allows starting from a geometry or a 2-dimensional line, a curve, to change in a certain way. We'll see later how this tool works during the tutorial, where we try to use the major part of tools available in 3ds Max. We can make systems to compose particular scenes. We can create patch grids as new surfaces, which refers to the particular typologies of modeling. In our training and inside this video training, we speak always of polygonal objects. Then, we'll make a simple polygonal modeling, a sub-D modeling of hard edge modeling based moderation. We won't never use nulls, which are often used in automotive sector, which requires very detailed and realistic curves, which would require a really high number of polygons. Furthermore, we won't use the patch grids, which are a middle way between the polygonal modeling based on control points and Bezier curvatures for single vertex. This is a particular modeling, which is what I know only 3ds Max supplies. We have other objects like the body object. We have some predefined doors as well as windows. We have a section concerning the rendering engine mental array, or in case a third-party plugin installed, we can find options about V-Ray. There are different options concerning dynamic instruments or AAC extended, so to create trees and so on. Finally, we have the possibility to create some stairs with some presets. There are parametrical stairs, so we can have some stairs families. Through this starting point of generation, we can make some stairs that will go to cover with our 3-dimensional models. We can also have third-party plugins, which are not directly connected to the render, and in this case we see the fume effects. We can have Kakatoa and Real Flow to name some of the most famous. You can find all this inside the compound objects. Then, after you have selected from the drop-down menu or our category, we can see the different buttons in this area. These buttons identify the starting point for creating something. To see how the creation of parallelepipeds works, I click on the Create tab. I will make a geometry because the parallelepiped is a three-dimensional model. From the drop-down menu, we select the container of this parallelepiped, which is the standard primitive, and in this case you have to know them by heart. Later, inside this element subcategory, we make a box, and by clicking this working area, which we saw previously, or through keyboard entry, we'll go to create our cube. I generally create all in the working window, also if I need to create a structure with accurate dimensions. After this, through the Modify panel, I make this modification. We'll see them with the next lessons.